My name is Nora Vance. I'm 30 years old, a senior tax accountant at a firm in downtown Denver, and I have always believed in two things: clean financial ledgers and clear boundaries. 4 years ago, right before I turned 26, my grandfather passed away and left me a modest liquid inheritance. While most people my age might have blown it on trips to Europe or a shiny new SUV, I made the smartest financial move of my life. I paid a 60% down payment on a bright two-bedroom modern condo in a quiet neighborhood just 15 minutes from downtown Denver. The title was registered exclusively under my maiden name, Nora Vance, when I married my husband, Derek. 2 years later, he moved into my apartment. Derek didn't pay rent. The mortgage was low enough that I easily covered it out of my own paycheck, along with the HOA fees and property taxes. The agreement was simple. Derek paid his own car loan, covered our grocery bills, and chipped in $200 a month toward utilities. For the second bedroom, I turned it into my sanctuary, a quiet, sunlit home office fitted with built-in mahogany bookshelves, a standing desk, a cozy reading armchair, and my high-end work setup. As a tax accountant working 45 hours a week, and double that during tax season, that room was where I made my living. Derek, however, had a bad habit of forgetting whose name was on the deed. He worked as an assistant manager at a sporting goods store, earning about half of what I made. But whenever we were around his family, Derek loved to puff out his chest and talk about our real estate portfolio. He loved acting like the big city homeowner to impress his mother, Evelyn, and his 22-year-old sister, Chloe. Evelyn was a bitter, passive-aggressive woman who believed her son was a prince who had settled for a working girl like me, and Chloe was an unemployed, self-proclaimed influencer who spent her days filming dance videos for social media and expecting the world to hand her a free ride. I kept my mouth shut to keep the peace. But peace in a marriage doesn't last when one person mistakes your kindness for weakness. It started on a Tuesday evening in late September. I came home after a grueling 12-hour day auditing corporate tax forms. All I wanted was a hot shower and 2 quiet hours in my office to finish a client's quarterly report. When I unlocked the front door, the first thing that hit me was the smell of stale pizza, cheap vape juice, and spilled energy drinks. The living room was an absolute disaster. 3 large, scuffed pink suitcases were sitting right in the hallway. Designer shopping bags were strewn across my hardwood floors, and dirty sneakers were piled near the couch. Standing in my kitchen, eating ice cream straight out of my container with a metal spoon, was Chloe. "Oh, hey, Nora," Chloe said casually, barely looking up from her phone. "Derek said it was cool if I crashed here for a bit. My roommate kicked me out over some stupid drama about rent." I blinked, holding my leather briefcase tightly against my side. "Crashed here? For how long, Chloe?" "IDK, maybe a few months until I get my follower count up and find a brand sponsor." She shrugged, tossing her sticky spoon into my clean sink. I took the back room. The desk was in the way, so Derek helped me shove it into the hallway. My blood ran instantly cold. I pushed past her and walked down the hallway to my home office. My heart dropped into my stomach. My custom mahogany desk had been dragged out into the narrow hallway, its wood scratched along the baseboard. Inside my office, my twin monitor setup had been unplugged and piled onto the floor. My professional files were shoved into cardboard boxes in the corner, and Chloe's unmade bed, clothes, and makeup ring lights filled the entire space. "Derek," I called out, my voice tight and dangerous. Derek walked out of our bedroom, rubbing his neck, looking entirely unbothered. "Hey, babe, look, don't get worked up." "What is my $1,000 monitor setup doing on the floor, Derek?" I asked, my eyes burning with quiet fury. "Why is your sister's luggage in my workspace? She needed a place to stay, Nora." Derek hissed softly, grabbing my arm and pulling me into our bedroom, shutting the door. "Her landlord gave her an eviction notice." "What was I supposed to do, let my sister sleep on the street? She's family." "She's 22 years old and hasn't looked for a real job in 8 months. I snapped, pulling my arm away. "And this isn't a guest house, Derek. This is my home office. I have client files in there. I have a tax deadline this Friday." "It's a 2-bedroom apartment, Nora," Derek yelled back, his face flushing red. You don't need an entire room just to sit on a computer. You can work at the dining table. Stop being so damn selfish. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed in my hand. It was a text message notification from my smart lock app. Front door lock. New physical key used. 6:15 p.m. I looked at Derek, horror dawning on me. Did you make a duplicate key to my front door? Derek crossed his arms, looking down at me with total defiance. My mom needed one so she can come over and help Chloe move the rest of her stuff tomorrow. Get used to it, Nora. It's time you learned what being part of a real family actually means. I didn't scream. I didn't smash a glass against the wall or throw Chloe's pink suitcases out the balcony window. In my line of work, when someone tries to back you into a corner, getting emotional is the fastest way to lose your leverage. I took a deep, slow breath, looking at my husband as if he were a complete stranger. You gave your mother a key to my home, I said, my voice dead calm, without asking me, without my consent. It's our home, Nora, Derek snapped, stepping closer, trying to use his height to intimidate me. I live here. I'm your husband, I don't need your permission to give my own mother a key so she can visit her daughter. You need to drop this cold, calculating act right now. Chloe is staying in that room, and that is final. Is it? I asked softly. Yes, it is, Derek sneered. Now go apologize to Chloe for making her feel unwelcome and help her move her clothes into the closet. I didn't say another word. I turned around, walked out of the bedroom, and picked up my laptop bag from the hallway floor. Chloe was sitting on my plush office chair, the ergonomic one I'd bought with my first Christmas bonus, filming a video on her phone. Hey Nora, can you buy the good oat milk next time? Chloe called out without looking up from her screen. The regular almond milk you have in the fridge tastes cheap. I didn't answer her. I walked straight out the front door, down the hallway, and into the elevator. That night, I stayed at an extended stay boutique hotel 3 blocks away. I opened my laptop, connected to the secure Wi-Fi, and spent 4 hours doing what I do best, preparing a bulletproof legal paper trail. First, I logged into my county clerk portal and printed out the certified property deed for the condo. Sole owner, Nora Vance. Acquisition date, May 14, 2022. Second, I gathered 2 years of bank statements showing that every single mortgage payment, HOA fee, property tax bill, and building assessment had been paid directly from my personal checking account. Derek's name wasn't on a single financial document related to the property. Third, I called my real estate attorney, Victoria Vance. No relation, just a brilliant lawyer I'd worked with during my property closing. Nora, Victoria said, after listened to my 5-minute briefing. Because the condo was acquired prior to marriage using your non-marital inheritance, and because he has never made financial contributions toward the equity or mortgage, the property remains 100% non-marital asset under Colorado law. He has no legal right to grant tenancy to third parties. What about his mother having a key? I asked. If non-residents enter the property without the sole owner's consent, it's illegal entry and trespass, Victoria replied smoothly. And as for your sister-in-law, under Colorado law, since she hasn't established formal residency or paid rent, she is considered an unauthorized guest. You don't even need a 30-day eviction notice if you act fast before 30 days pass. We can issue a formal notice to vacate within 24 hours. Let's do it, I said. And Victoria? Yes? Draft the divorce petition. While you're at it, the next morning at 9 a.m., while Derek was at work at the sporting goods store, and Chloe was presumably sleeping in until noon. In my ruined office, 2 locksmiths arrived at my condo door, accompanied by a local private security officer I had hired for the morning. Within 45 minutes, the high-security smart lock on my front door was drilled out and replaced with a brand-new, top-of-the-line biometric system that only recognized my fingerprint and a passcode known only to me. Evelyn's duplicate key was rendered useless before she even had a chance to use it. At 11 a.m., a process server arrived at the door. I stood in the hallway as the server knocked firmly. Chloe opened the door in an oversized t-shirt, rubbing her eyes, looking confused as she was handed an official legal packet, a 72 hours notice to vacate for unauthorized guest, along with an itemized bill for property damage regarding the scratched mahogany desk and displaced electronics. 10 minutes later, my phone started ringing. It wasn't just Derek. It was Evelyn, screaming so loud I could hear her screeching through the phone receiver from 2 feet away. I hit speakerphone, sat down at my dining table with a hot cup of coffee, and listened to the storm I had just unleashed. "You Evel, heartless bitch!" Evelyn's voice shattered the speaker on my phone like broken glass. I set the cup of hot dark roast onto a marble coaster, watching the steam rise in tiny curls against the morning sunlight flooding my dining room. "Do you hear me, Nora?" Evelyn shrieked, her breath rattling against the receiver. "Chloe is crying in the hallway. A man in a suit just handed her legal papers. You summoned a process server on your own family?" "Evelyn," I said, my voice measured and completely devoid of emotion. "Your daughter is an unauthorized trespasser in my private residence. She was given 72 hours to clear her belongings out of my office, or local law enforcement will escort her off the premises for trespassing. It is not your residence. It is my son's house," Evelyn roared. "He works himself to the bone to keep a roof over your head, He opened his door to his baby sister, and you throw a temper tantrum like a spoiled child because she used a bedroom you weren't even sleeping in." I let out a short, quiet laugh. "Derek doesn't keep a roof over my head, Evelyn. He doesn't even pay for the roof over his own head. Every square foot of this condo was paid for by my grandfather's estate and my paycheck. Derek pays $200 toward utilities and buys groceries when he feels like it. He couldn't afford the HOA dues on this building if his life depended on it." There was a sudden, sharp beat of dead silence on the line. I could hear Evelyn choking on her own fury, completely unprepared for me to lay out the cold, unvarnished financial truth. Before she could rally, Derek's frantic voice cut into the call. He had obviously joined on a 3-way line from the break room of his sporting goods store. "Nora, what the hell are you doing?" Derek pleaded, his tone swinging wildly between explosive rage and sheer panic. "I just got a security alert from the front door. The lock code isn't working. Chloe is locked out in her pajamas, and my mom says you served her an eviction notice." "It's a notice to vacate for an unauthorized guest, Derek," I corrected him smoothly. "And the lock was changed because you gave your mother an unauthorized duplicate key to my private property. That violates the HOA security bylaws and my personal safety." "I am your husband," Derek yelled, his voice cracking. "You don't change the locks on your husband. I am coming home right now, and you better have that door unlocked, or so help me God, I will break it down." "I wouldn't advise that, Derek," I replied, leaning back against my chair and looking at the official police report draft open on my laptop screen. "This building has 24-hour concierge service and CCTV on every landing. If you attempt to damage the door or cause a public disturbance, the security team downstairs has explicit instructions from my real estate attorney to have you arrested for criminal mischief." You attorney?" Derek stammered. The wind suddenly knocked completely out of his sails. "Nora, what are you talking about? We're married. We can talk about this when I get home." "We aren't talking anymore, Derek," I said softly. "I tried talking to you last night when my $1,000 work setup was sitting on the floor. You told me to get used to it. Well, I decided I'd rather get used to being single." "Nora, wait!" I hung up the phone. I didn't block their numbers just yet. I wanted every frantic text, every threatening voicemail, and every desperate admission of guilt saved directly to my cloud server. In my world, documentation isn't just evidence, it's the ultimate currency. 10 minutes later, I heard the faint, furious banging on the heavy oak door out in the hallway. Evelyn and Chloe had arrived at the landing. The pounding on my front door rattled the brass hardware. "Nora, open this door right now!" Evelyn's voice boomed down the quiet, carpeted corridor of the 4th floor. "You cannot lock my son out of his own home. I know you're in there." "You worthy little rat!" I didn't rush to the door. I walked over to my kitchen island, took a calm sip of my dark roast, and checked the feed from my smart door camera on my phone screen. Evelyn was standing right outside, her face red and blotchy with rage, hammering her leather purse against the wood. Beside her stood Chloe, clutching her ring light and filming the door with her phone, tears streaming down her makeup-smeared cheeks. "Guys, change. My crazy sister-in-law literally locked me out in my pajamas." Chloe was sobbing into her phone camera, going live to her social media followers. "She called the cops on me just because I'm staying here. Help me get this viral." Change. I pressed the intercom button on my phone, my voice broadcasting clearly through the small speaker next to the doorway. "Evelyn, Chloe," I said smoothly. "You are creating a noise disturbance in a private residential building. Change. The front desk has already flagged your presence on the security monitors. Open the door, Nora." Evelyn screamed into the camera lens. "Derek pays for this place. You're a leech living off my son's hard work, Change, and now you're throwing his family out on the street." Right on cue, the elevator doors at the end of the hall chimed open. Derek sprinted out, wearing his green sporting goods polo shirt, sweating profusely. "Mom, Chloe!" Change. "Is she answering?" "She changed the lock, Derek," Chloe wailed, shoving her phone into his face. "Tell my live stream what she did. Tell everyone how she stole your apartment." Derek lunged at the door. Change, pounding his fists against the oak frame. "Nora, open the damn door. You're humiliating my family in front of the whole building." "You're humiliating yourselves," I replied through the speaker. "Derek," Change, "I suggest you take your sister's luggage out of the hallway before building management assesses a $300 corridor obstruction fee to your personal account." "I have rights here, Nora," Derek roared, hitting the door again. Change, "I'm your husband. I have a right to be in my house." "You have a right to reside here as a marital spouse, Derek," my voice rang out, cold and razor-sharp. Change, "You do not have the right to grant long-term occupancy to non-tenants without the sole property owner's written consent, and since you assisted in converting my private work office without my permission, Change, your license to occupy this residence has been formally revoked pending our divorce proceedings." "Divorce?" Derek gasped, his hand freezing against the door. "Nora? You're divorcing me over a guest room?" "No," I said, Change, stepping closer to the door so my voice carried clearly through the wood. "I'm divorcing you because you don't respect my labor, my boundaries, or my name on the title. Now look behind you." The elevator chimed open a second time. Change. Two uniformed Denver police officers stepped out onto the carpeted floor, accompanied by Mr. Henderson, the stern, gray-haired HOA board president holding a clipboard. "Derek Vance?" the lead officer asked, Change, his hand resting casually near his utility belt. "We received a call from building security regarding an unauthorized disturbance and illegal entry attempt on the 4th floor. Officer, thank God you're here." Change. Evelyn piped up immediately, pointing an accusatory finger at my door. "My daughter-in-law has suffered some kind of mental breakdown. She locked my son out of his own condo." Officer Davis didn't even look at Evelyn. Change. He pulled a folder from his jacket. "Ma'am, we have the county land records right here," the officer said calmly. "The property owner, Ms. Nora Vance, called in a formal trespass complaint. Mr. Vance, Change, since your wife has requested your removal following a domestic dispute over non-marital property, you need to step away from the door immediately." "She can't do this," Chloe shrieked, still holding her phone up to record. Change. "I have 50,000 people watching this right now. This is illegal." "Miss, turn that camera off and step back," the second officer commanded sharply. "If you refuse to remove your personal items from the hallway within 5 minutes, Change, you will be cited for trespassing and disorderly conduct." Derek stood in the middle of the hallway, his jaw hanging open, looking at the police officers, then at the HOA president, and finally at the sleek, Change, unyielding biometric lock on my front door. The reality of his situation hit him like a bucket of ice water. He wasn't the master of the house. He wasn't the big city property owner he bragged about being to his friends. Change. He was just a guy in a sporting goods shirt, getting escorted out of a building he couldn't afford by the Denver Police Department. "Derek," Chloe whimpered. Change, her face turning pale as her live stream chat started filling with comments mocking her family. "What do we do? Pack your bags, Chloe," Derek whispered, his voice completely broken, from inside my quiet, sunlit living room. Change. I watched through the camera feed as Derek, Evelyn, and Chloe began dragging the heavy pink suitcases back toward the elevator under the cold, watchful eyes of the police officers. I turned off the intercom, picked up my hot coffee, and walked into my office to put my mahogany desk back where it belonged. 3 weeks after the police escorted Derek, Evelyn, and Chloe down the elevator, my life had settled into a quiet, beautiful rhythm. The lock on my front door remained untouched. My mahogany desk was restored to its exact position by the window in my home office, double monitors glowing softly under the morning sun. Without the stale odor of vape juice or the constant passive-aggressive chatter of people who didn't respect my home, the air in the condo felt lighter, cleaner, and entirely mine. Derek, meanwhile, was living on his mother's lumpy sleeper sofa in her crowded 2-bedroom apartment across town. Chloe's viral livestream had backfired spectacularly. Instead of gaining her pity and brand deals, thousands of commenters had screenshotted the moment the Denver police read the land records aloud, roasting her family for trying to squat in an apartment they didn't own. On a rainy Thursday morning, I sat inside the glass-walled conference room at Vance & Associates, sitting beside my attorney, Victoria. Across the mahogany table sat Derek and his court-appointed legal aid lawyer, a tired-looking man named Mr. Miller who looked like he'd spent the last 3 weeks trying to explain basic property law to a stubborn wall. Derek looked terrible. His polo shirt was unironed. Dark circles bruised the skin beneath his eyes, and he refused to make direct eye contact with me. "All right," Victoria began, setting a sleek leather folder on the center of the table. "We are here to finalize the dissolution of marriage between Ms. Nora Vance and Mr. Derek Vance. Before we discuss asset division, I want to make our position abundantly clear." Victoria opened the folder and slid a neat 30-page document across to Mr. Miller. "This is a comprehensive forensic financial audit of the marriage," Victoria said smoothly. "As you can see, the residential property located at 1420 Glenarm Place was acquired by my client prior to marriage, utilizing sole non-marital funds from her grandfather's estate. Mr. Vance's name appears on 0 property deeds, 0 mortgage documents, and 0 HOA agreements. We understand the real estate is non-marital property," Mr. Miller said with a sigh, rubbing his temples. "However, my client contributed to the household during the 2 years of marriage. He paid for groceries and utilities. We are requesting a modest equity payout of $20,000 to help him reestablish living quarters." I couldn't help it. I let out a soft, amused chuckle. Derek's head snapped up, his face flushing red. "What's so funny, Nora? I lived there for 2 years. I put my time into that place." "You put your feet up on my sofa for 2 years, Derek," I said, leaning forward and resting my hands calmly on the table. "You paid $200 a month toward utilities. My average monthly utility bill was $450. That means for 24 months, I subsidized your basic living expenses." Victoria slid a second sheet of paper across the table, a highlighted bank ledger. "In addition," Victoria continued, her voice razor-sharp, "during the final 14 months of marriage, Mr. Vance secretly utilized a joint credit card, which was settled monthly using Ms. Vance's personal checking account to make personal purchases totaling $14,800. These included high-end golf clubs, sporting gear, and expensive dinners with his mother and sister." Mr. Miller looked at the line items on the ledger, then turned to Derek with an expression of pure exhaustion. "Derek, is this accurate?" Derek swallowed hard, his neck turning blotchy. I bought those things for the household. A $900 driver golf club is not a household item, Derek," I said quietly. "So here is our final offer," Victoria stated, tapping her pen on the settlement agreement. "Ms. Vance will waive her claim for criminal property damage regarding her displaced work equipment and the restitution for unauthorized credit card charges. In exchange, Mr. Vance will sign a full waiver of interest in the real estate, sign the uncontested divorce decree today, and surrender any remaining personal items left in storage within 48 hours. "And if he doesn't?" Mr. Miller asked quietly. Victoria smiled, a cold, professional smile that made Derek visibly flinch. "If he doesn't, we immediately file a civil suit for conversion of funds, financial fraud, and property damage." Given the police report and CCTV footage from the afternoon of the disturbance, my client will seek full restitution, court costs, and legal fees, which will far exceed Mr. Vance's annual salary. Mr. Miller didn't even hesitate. He turned to Derek, pulled a black pen from his coat pocket, and shoved it into Derek's hand. "Sign it, Derek," his lawyer whispered. "Sign it right now." 2 months later, the ink on the divorce decree was completely dry. The autumn air in Denver had turned crisp and cool, dusting the distant Rocky Mountains with their first light layer of snow. I stood on my balcony on a Sunday morning, holding a steaming mug of chai tea, watching the city below go about its day. For the first time in 2 years, there was no underlying anxiety heavy in my chest. There was no husband complaining about my work hours, no bitter mother-in-law making snide comments about my background, and no lazy sister-in-law demanding oat milk while treating my workspace like a hotel room. Derek's final box of belongings had been collected 6 ago by a local moving company. He didn't even come himself. He was too embarrassed to face the concierge desk after his name was officially placed on the building's permanent trespass list. From what I heard through mutual acquaintances, Derek was still sleeping on Evelyn's couch, taking extra shifts at the sporting goods store just to pay back his lawyer's fees and his credit card balance. Chloe had been forced to take a part-time job as a barista at a local drive-through coffee stand after her social media follower count stalled, her influencer dreams deflated by the harsh reality of paying her own bills. As for me, my career flourished. Without the domestic chaos draining my energy, I was promoted to senior managing tax consultant at my firm, accompanied by a 20% salary raise. I hired an interior designer to completely renovate my home office. We repainted the walls a warm, calming sage green, installed custom floor-to-ceiling mahogany shelving, and added a sleek velvet chaise lounge by the window. At the center of the room sat my restored desk, holding my double monitors, a soft desk lamp, and a framed photograph of my grandfather smiling in his garden. He had worked his entire life to ensure his grandniece would have financial security, independence, and a place to call her own. I knew he would be proud to see that I hadn't let anyone take that away from me. I walked back inside, shut the heavy glass balcony door, and locked it, knowing that every key to this sanctuary was right where it belonged. In my hands alone. The end.